So I guess after Joe Colombo, his successor became Junior Persico.
Yes.
Carmine Persico became the boss.
Yes.
And with Carmine, like he has a few names, right? Obviously, he's known as a Snake. Obviously, people call him Junior as well.
Right.
But there's also a name that I came across as the Immortal, given the amount of times people tried to take him out.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an instance where I think he was sort of shot in the face and he just spat the bullet out in his hand, sort of thing. So he was someone with a reputation as far as he wasn't a joke, pretty much.
No, tough guy. He carried himself well. Problem with Junior is he couldn't stay out of jail, you know. But I thought he was a good boss while he was on the street. I did. He kept a tight crew. He kept a tight rein on everybody, but in the right way. I got along great with him. You know, he made me a captain. One or two things that he did that I didn't appreciate, but again, you're not going to like everything everybody does in that life. You got to understand. But no, if he was on the street, he would have been a good boss if he could have stayed out.
And I believe it was the second Colombo War with Carmine and Little Vic Arena, right?
Right.
So I guess at the time when this war was happening, you was in prison.
Yes.
Now, have you ever thought, had you been on the street, you obviously would have had to pick a side?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I was on parole when I got a phone call. And I had left the life, and it was a lot of stuff, and I did 5 years in prison. I was out on parole. This was 1991. And they said, Mike, stop the nonsense. We need you back here. Who do you support? I said, I support Junior. I don't go against my boss. And I had a good crew, and they were still fairly loyal. I could have gathered them together. And honestly, I was very challenged emotionally and mentally. My father even got a hold of me. He says, my dad's words, stop the baloney, we need you back here. And I said, okay. I was very challenged on whether I was going to break my parole and go back or not. And I labored over it for a couple of days. And I was making a decision to break my parole and go back. I was figuring out how I was going to tell my wife that I had to go to New York or wherever. And what happens? I'm walking out of a bank on November 13th, just when the war was beginning, and I got violated.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, coming out of a bank, was 15 agents there. They
Crazy.
slapped the cuffs on me, threw me in a paddy wagon, and I did another 4 years. I was in the whole war.
What was the reason they violated you, though?
They were trying to get me to cooperate in a big way. They had my name on a witness list of a number of cases that were coming up, and they wanted me to cooperate. One guy especially, a guy by the name of John Riggy,
Right.
who was a boss in Jersey. Because we had a deal together. We had a piece of every window that was coming into Manhattan, we shared. We had a tariff on it, and we were partners on it. So they indicted him for it, and there was another witness that said that I was his partner. So they brought me in. They wanted me to testify against him, and I refused. They sent me back. Within 5 or 6 days, I was violated. So they got very upset with me because I wouldn't cooperate. And the excuse they used was that I didn't file my income tax, which I didn't. I didn't file it.
Okay.
However, I was reporting my income to my parole officer every month. So I wasn't intentionally not filing. They knew what it was, but whatever. So they sent me back for 4 years. I was there throughout the whole war.
Right.
Saved my life, honestly.
I can imagine, yeah.
Saved my life.
A lot of people got
12 or 13 guys got killed. 18 guys became informants.
Crazy.
Another 63 went to jail.
Crazy.
I would have been right in the mix.
Insane. If we could also just spare a moment to discuss, there was another instance, I guess, where you had to have a sit down, and I believe the higher ups believed you were, as far as the money you were kicking up, you were actually making more?
Yeah.
Or something?
There was an article came out that said that I was making $1 billion or something. It was a crazy article, and they said I was getting powerful enough to break away from the Colombos and start my own family.
Right.
It was a total fiction. I had no basis in reality whatsoever, but started to get into people's heads. So they put me on the spot one night, walked me into a room where, honestly, I was scared. Because, that life, you walk into a room, you don't walk out again if you made a mistake, a serious mistake. And I had that experience, where they walked me in. They wanted to really make me understand who the boss was, just in case I had anything on my mind, which I didn't. So, we straightened it out. It was a tough night. It was a tough night for me, but we straightened it out. And
I mean, even your father, I guess, was summoned to this particular
My father
meeting.
was summoned, and honestly, he didn't help me that night. He was there before me, and he kind of, he didn't support me the way he should have.
Threw you under the bus a little bit.
He threw me under the bus, and it was hurtful, honestly. It really was. We patched it up afterwards because he denied having it, but it wasn't pleasant.
One thing I respect about you, Mr. Franzese, when you're talking about this particular situation and with your father, you don't really ever speak ill of him. I feel like you're very understanding as far as, his situation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love my dad. Nobody's perfect, and I understand, that life, the pull it has on you mentally. And my dad, the life meant everything to him. I shouldn't say that. His legacy in that life meant everything to him.
Makes sense, yeah.
And I kind of understood it. So, he's my dad. I mean, he did more good than bad for me, so
sure.
I got to love him for it.
I mean, if we're being honest as well, like, he's been through a lot. I mean, your brother took the stand against, you
Yes.
guys' father. So did you ever think psychologically that may have played on your father's mind, thinking, even my kids are not really loyal to me almost? Like,
Well, that happened afterwards.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that happened years later.
Right.
He was devastated by it.
Crazy.
But, as surprised as I was, my brother had a severe drug problem. And, my dad wanted me to straighten my brother out, wanted me to make him. And I said, Dad, you're going to get him killed. Yeah, he's a drug addict. I said, he's going to make a mistake. He's going to do the wrong thing. As a made guy, you don't get away with that. We won't even be able to save him.
For sure.
So I wouldn't do it at the time. And, but he didn't, he had a soft spot for his kids, my father, no doubt. Yeah, sometimes he didn't think correctly. Yeah.
For sure. Now, we previously made a mention of Roy DeMeo, and obviously Roy has he's like pretty interesting to me because I read Murder Machine, and I'm familiar with his story, and it's quite a story. But one thing about him, I guess, when his time was called, a few agents paid him a visit and said to him, listen, the call has come down from Big Paul, and they're gonna take you out, so you might as well come with us. And he pretty much said, I've been a good soldier, I'm not going anywhere. And I guess he accepted his fate. And a few days later, he was found in the back of a car. Same thing could be said about Sonny Black Napolitano from the Bananas. I mean, the whole Donnie Brasco thing, he, I guess, accepted his fate also, and then, he ended up being killed. So what's your impression as far as, cooperating with the authorities? Like, obviously, it's a big no-no in the life, but I'm sure you come across so many, that went against you. So, if you could offer your opinion about this whole, cooperating within the mafia?
Well, listen, I understand, DeMeo and Sonny Black, because when I was walking into that room that night, and the setup was very bad, I had a guy behind me and two guys, and I knew that when I walked down the stairs into that apartment, that could be the end of my life. Obviously, I spent a lot of time in that life. I was familiar with the experience, but people have said to me, Michael, why didn't you cut and run? I said, because it was more robotic than anything else. Hey, if this is it, this is it. This is the life I chose. And that was the mentality I had. So I understand Roy, I understand Sonny Black. Gets into your head like that. But look, as far as cooperating, everybody has an excuse for cooperating. Some may be legit, some may not be legit. I think most of the time people just don't want to go to jail. And that's the bottom line. That's what I've seen in my life. But maybe a guy has a legitimate reason for turning against the family.
Do you think there is one at all, would you say?
Listen, you take an oath, and things are supposed to be done the right way, and when they're not, you say, hey, what does the oath mean? If it doesn't mean anything to him, why should it mean something to me? That's the mentality.
That's a great point.
But most of the time, I believe they just don't want to go to jail. That's the bottom line. Nobody wants to go to prison,
For sure.
especially. And I will say this, everybody blames John Gotti for the destruction of the mob. Nonsense. John didn't do it any good by being out there, but he's not responsible, and I'll say that to anybody.
I agree.
It was the racketeering law. It was the Bail Reform Act, the Sentencing Reform Act that destroyed that life. That's it in a nutshell. The government had too many weapons, too many tools, surveillance. When you got 2,000 hours of tape recordings on people saying everything, what happened? We just didn't keep up with the technology.
Exactly.
We talked too much. And so many guys got in trouble for their own words. And it's hard. I'm on trial with Giuliani. Listen to this, 7 months I'm on trial, several months. One guy, I had 15 co-defendants, half of them I never met in my life. That's a racketeering case. You're on trial with people you never met. You don't even know what the heck was going on.
Wow.
One guy was a union guy. Opening statement, I never met him. Opening statement, they talk about him. Next several months, they never mention his name again. Never mention his name. The day we were going to closing arguments, getting ready, I said to him, I forget his name, I said, you're going home. They never even mention your name. I don't even know what you're sitting here. The jury thinks you're a lawyer. They don't even know who you are, right? I'm teasing him. I said, don't worry, but you're going home. Just before closing arguments, the prosecutor gets up and plays one tape of this guy in the boardroom of the place, and here's his voice on tape. Hey, let me tell you all this. What we're doing here is a crime. If this office is bugged, we're all going to jail. Crazy. That's what he said, Crazy. And that's what was recorded on the tape.
Crazy.
Convicted, he got 7 years.
7 years.
That was it, a 5-minute tape.
Crazy.
So how do you blame him? I mean, you can't, the poor guy, we were laughing at the table. We were all laughing. We thought it was hysterical, because he didn't tell us what was on that tape. But anyway, we didn't keep up with the technology. That's the bottom line, and the laws were too severe.
That's a great point.
Too severe.
Incredible. So you gave him a mention, but Rudy Giuliani. Now, with him, right, obviously on Netflix you have Fear City, the commission case and everything. And even with the, obviously, the Patrick Bet-David, and you guys had a series, and, obviously Patrick, I guess, interviewed him and he offered his insight. But there's one thing about Rudy that I don't quite understand, right? Because he claims to have got all the bosses. Obviously, Big Paul was hit, so he obviously didn't get convicted. But if we talk about the Genovese, right? Fat Tony Salerno went down for 100 years because it was proclaimed that he was the boss of the Genovese family. But he wasn't. He was the front boss right? But Giuliani, I guess, I've heard Giuliani swear up and down that Fat Tony was the boss and the chin was basically like more or less like a wannabe or something.
Yeah, Rudy was mistaken about that. But Fat Tony was a boss. It was a crazy situation because he was the boss, he was recognized, he was on the commission, but he also consulted with Chin about everything. And Chin didn't want to have that tag, crazy for 30 years. So, but Chin was the real power in New York in that family, no doubt about it. But I don't want to make it like Fat Tony was just a figurehead. That's not true. Tony made, a lot of decisions. I liked him a lot, but Chin was the real power there. But he got Chin eventually anyway. I mean, Chin
later on.
Later on.
Yeah, because it's quite crazy. Because I mean, the way that he speaks about the Chin, and for me, the Chin is probably one of the most powerful bosses ever. I don't know if you would agree, but his reign was for 30 years or something.
Rudy, he got that wrong. I was surprised. He was mistaken with respect to that. But his intel on that wasn't as good as it should have been. Yeah,
for sure. So, Mr. Franzese, what's life like for you now? Pretty much, you've gone away from the life, and do you still have that sense of paranoia? Would you say, just in case?
Listen, the mentality never really leaves you. Like I say, you can take the boy out of Brooklyn, you can't take Brooklyn out of the boy. So it's still with me, but look, I found out one thing, Mo. Accountability is everything in life.
Absolutely.
Who you are accountable to is the direction your life is going to take. When I was on the street in the mob, I was accountable to my boss and my oath and my guys. Now I'm accountable to God first, my wife, my children, and the people that rely on me and expect me to do the right thing. So, and I'm 71 years old, so I'm not making mistakes like I did before. Well, I feel good. I feel good. So, life is good. Look, I've got a career as a speaker. I've written a bunch of books. They're doing a television series based upon my life now. It'll be going into production shortly. They're doing a stage play based upon my life that they're taking all around the world.
Incredible.
And that starts next year, next February. And things are great. I'm here in the United Kingdom. Can I say that?
For sure.
We got a 20-city tour, starting tonight actually.
Incredible, yeah.
And people are warming up to it. It looks like it's going to go well. So I'm blessed. Very grateful for. Listen, I tell you this. You could take this to the bank. If you're a made guy in that life, and you die of old age, and you die free, you've really accomplished something. So, to say I'm blessed and fortunate is an understatement, because it could have been a lot worse for me.
Absolutely. And you know what they say, the smart ones always live to tell the tale, right?
Well, the blessed ones always
the blessed
live,
ones.
yes. The blessed ones, yes.
For sure. Well, Mr. Franzese, absolutely incredible talking to you. I'm about to join you later on, witness the greatest show on earth. That's what it's about to be. And
well,
all the best going further. And, Really appreciate your time, sir.
I
For sure.
appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thank you, Mo.
It's all right. Nice
All right.
one. Nice
Good
one.
job.